Here we go. Hello everybody and welcome to the Box of Sound. I am Bill, because it's Bill's Box of Sound. And thank you for tuning in, downloading, and dropping by the old podcast or the YouTube channel. If you're watching me on YouTube, hey there, this is something new I'm trying, where I'm making a YouTube video and an audio podcast at the same time. So, if you are listening to this on audio and you want to see this actual podcast in action, you can go to podcast.boxofsound.com, and over on the right side you'll see the link to my YouTube channel, and you can look for Box of Sound number 75, and you can see this podcast in action. If you want to write me, email me at bill@boxofsound.com, and I'll communicate with you there. You can also subscribe in iTunes. If you do, please leave a positive review. And if you don't like the show, either send me an email telling me what you don't like and what I can do to make the show better, or just don't listen. That's your prerogative. Anyway, a little bit of news here. First of all, the Red Hot Chili Peppers have come out, well, they are in the process of coming out with a series of 9 7-inch singles of songs that are heretofore unreleased and all recorded at the same time as the most recent album, I'm With You. 2 of these have already been released, and the songs are pretty good. You can go and buy them online. You can also buy them on iTunes. But what I did is I went to the Red Hot Chili Peppers site, and I ordered a subscription package where, as the songs are released, you can download them digitally, and as 3 of them are released, they will ship them to you. And when they're all done, it'll be 9 7-inch singles, and you can take all 9 of the singles and place them in a square, and they will be one big piece of art. And I've heard the first 2 songs. They're not bad. I mean, remember, the Stadium Arcadium album was 4 albums worth of music and 2 CDs. Their most recent album is 1 CD, 2 albums, and it seems as though they recorded just as much other material that just didn't make it onto the album. I'm a fan of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, so I think this is some pretty good stuff. So, you can buy it digitally, but if you want both the digital and the 7-inch vinyl, which turns into a piece of art when it's all done, you can go to the redhotchilipeppers.com site and link to their store that way. Pretty cool. Another thing that's kind of cool, I'm going to put it right in front of the camera here. Muddy Waters and the Rolling Stones live at the Checkerboard Lounge. This is a 2-record set. This is a Muddy Waters concert that Mick Jagger, Keith Richards, and Ron Wood were guests at. And it's one kickin' show. It's 1 white vinyl, 1 black vinyl, 2-record set. And when you get it, it's got the entire show. Let me see if I've got it here. On a DVD. So you can watch it and listen to it. Very cool. You got to remember, if it wasn't for Muddy Waters, the Rolling Stones wouldn't be the Rolling Stones. They were named after the Muddy Waters song, Rolling Stone. So I got that through mail order. I don't know if you'll see it in stores. It's available through Eagle Vision Entertainment. It's Muddy Waters and the Rolling Stones, Checkerboard Lounge, 1981. Okay, now the big meat of this podcast is going to be me talking about, yeah, once again, if you're watching it, I've got my Frank Zappa shirt on. The Frank Zappa catalog is in the hands of the Zappa Family Trust, where it belongs. And all of the albums are being remastered, so to speak, and being re-released on CD. There's going to be some vinyl re-releases, but we don't know which ones yet. But right now, there's like 50-some albums available on iTunes, and the CDs are coming out 12 a month. So, here are the first 12 releases, in retrospect with all of their previous issues on CD. I don't have every single CD here, but we're going to be talking about all of them. First album is Freak Out. And I've got the very first copy that came out on Rykodisc. The CD looks like that. And here is the back of it. And then it got re-released on a Ryko disc again with a big Frank Zappa release campaign in 1995 with what was called the FZ Approved Master. Now this album for CD was remixed by Frank from the original analog tapes. And it's pretty faithful to the original, but it's not as good as the original vinyl. If you can't get the original vinyl that's on the Verve label, there's only one way for you to get the original vinyl mix, and that is to go to Zappa.com and purchase the Mofo Project Object. Now, currently I believe there's only a 2 CD version of this. I've got the 4 CD version, which has the original stereo mix of Freak Out and 3 other CDs of archival and documentary material, as well as a big booklet with all sorts of cool stuff in it. So that is highly recommended if you want the best possible digital version of the album Freak Out. The second Mother's album is absolutely free. Here's the original Ryko copy. This master's not that bad. All digital versions of Absolutely Free also have the 2 extra songs, Why Don't You Do Me Right and Big Leg Emma. And the 2 original Ryko releases are identical as far as the sound is concerned. But the new version is completely remastered from the original tapes by, by Doug Sachs. And the CD looks like this. And the sound is freaking amazing. I love it. I have never heard the album this good before. And in a lot of these remasters that I'm recommending on the CD version, the drums and the bass, the clarity on them is amazing. But there's other things that you will hear as well. Now next we're talking about 2 albums. We're Only in It for the Money and Lumpy Gravy. Lumpy Gravy was Frank's first solo album. Both of these albums were recorded at the same time. And when they first came out on CD, on a Ryko disc, it was a twofer. Both albums on 1 CD. But Frank took the original tapes of We're Only in It for the Money and re-recorded bass and drums and completely reassembled the album from scratch. For a lot of people like me who loved this album when it first came out, this was sacrilege. It really ruined the album for us. But there are people who have heard this album for the first time in this version, and they love it. Well, you can still get this version. Not really. If you can find the 2 album version on 1 CD, it's very rare now. It's both We're Only in It for the Money and Lumpy Gravy on 1 disc. And that's got the re-recorded bass and drums. But when it got re-released in 1995, it had the original cover, and it was a reassembled version of the original bass and drums. Everything was intact, and a much better sounding master. As a matter of fact, this is the same master that was put together for the reissue that is now on the Universal, and it actually has the inside of the album as the front cover. So it's got the parody of the Sgt. Pepper cover on the front. And the best digital version is the newest one that has come out on Universal. But the best way to listen to We're Only in It for the Money is on the original vinyl. Now, Lumpy Gravy, also re-released in 1995 and released again on Universal in 2012. The most recent version on Ryko from 1995 is just about the same as the new Universal version, and it's good. It's the best of it digital version that you can get. Now, there was also the Lumpy Money Project Object, which was a 3 CD set that came out through Bar of Coast Will, the Zappa Records mail order concern. that has the original Lumpy Gravy, which was commissioned by Capitol Records, as well as a 1984 remix reassemblage that was done by Frank, which is pretty difficult to listen to. And it also has the mono mix of We're Only In It For The Money, which is very interesting if you're a completist. Plus, there's a whole bunch of other interesting music and documentary type information on this. This is only available through mail order. That's the Lumpy Money Project Object. Next, we have the last of the Verve albums, Reuben and the Jets. When Frank released this on CD for the first time through Rykodisc, it's the version that has re-recorded bass and drums on it. And it was also re-released in 1995 on Ryko. And it's got the same picture that I have on the front of my shirt. And sadly, the new version that's come out on Universal is the same as well. It's got the re-recorded bass and drums. The only way that you can get the original recording of Reuben and the Jets is to either seek out a copy of the original vinyl or go to Bar of Co-Swill, Zappa.com, and get this thing here. It's called Greasy Love Songs. It's got the original mix of Reuben and the Jets, which I love to pieces, and it's also got some documentary information on it. So that it is. Reuben and the Jets, a.k.a. Greasy Love Songs. Next, we have Uncle Meat. 2 CD set on Rykodisc. And it was re-released in 1995 with that CD. The version that has been released on Zappa/Universal is exactly the same as this old Ryko version here. And this includes the 37-minute and, let's see, and it's about 40 minutes of dialogue from the Uncle Meat movie, which was eventually re-released on, not re-released, just released on VHS tape, has never seen the light of day on DVD, and an extra song called Tengo Namechia Tanta. And people don't call these the bonus tracks. They call them the penalty tracks because they're that difficult to listen to. No matter which version of Uncle Meat you get, the first one, the second one, or the new one on Universal/Zappa, you are going to be getting pretty much the same version, which has some extra digital reverb on it, and it doesn't sound like the original vinyl. The best way to listen to this album is only on the original vinyl, sadly. I took my LP and I ripped my own CD of it, and that's what I listen to when I want to hear Uncle Meat. Now we come to one of Frank's masterpieces, probably one of his best-selling albums ever, Hot Rats. Okay, folks, the original vinyl is wonderful. And then, when it came out on CD, it was completely remixed from scratch and lengthened. Reimagined, kind of. And the album was not made worse by remixing it. It was made different. It was wonderful to hear that long, long sax solo in the Gumbo variations, lengthening it to 16 minutes from its original 12 or 13. And there was also a limited edition gold CD that did not have a different mix on it. It was exactly the same. That came out about a year later. And then there was the 1995 reissue, also on Rykodisc. Looked like that. And these are all the remixed 1987 version. However, the new CD of Hot Rats, right here, is the original mix. Now, this was remastered a couple of years ago by Bernie Grundman for a vinyl reissue on Classic Records, which, if you can find it, it's awesome. It's the best-sounding version of Hot Rats I have ever heard. Close second is this, because it's the same master done by Bernie Grundman, and the sound is great. You're going to hear things on this album that you've never heard before, unless you have that classic vinyl issue, which is on 200-gram vinyl, by the way. Absolutely, it's just pretty. It's just plain pretty. Next up, we've got Bertolini Sandwich. And that came out originally on Ryko, like that. Actually, no, did not come out on Ryko. This was the first issue to come out through Capitol Records and Barking Pumpkin. And then, in 1995, it was released on Ryko disc. And it was the same master. And it wasn't bad. Not all that bad. However, the new version, remastered by Bob Ludwig, is truly amazing. This is what the disc looks like. And I very highly recommend the most recent version if you don't have the original vinyl. This is the best sounding version of Bertolini Sandwich on any digital format. Then there was, what a great cover, Weasels Ripped My Flesh. Now this was released on Ryko. Let's see, does it say when it was? Yeah, in 1990. And the sound was horrible. It was futzed with like crazy. And it was re-released again in 1995. Same master. Sounded pretty damn bad. But it did have a little bit extra music on it, probably about a minute or two. The new version on Universal is the original mix. The original album sounds freaking amazing. How am I doing here on time? We're doing good. But this is remastered. This is by Bob Ludwig. And that's what it looks like. This is what the CD looks like. Pick it up if you can, or if you don't have the original vinyl. Now we've got Chungas Revenge. This was also in the bunch that sounded absolutely horrible originally. Got the version on Ryko disc with the black label. Then there's a 1995 version on Ryko disc with the derby hat label. And then there's the new one. I was never a big fan of the Chungas Revenge album until now. Remastered by Bob Ludwig, and it is wonderful. Dare I say it, it sounds pretty darn close, possibly even surpassing the vinyl. So that is Chungas Revenge. Those are all the different versions of it. Chungas Revenge was also the beginning of the Flo and Eddie era, which bore fruit with an album called Fillmore East, June 1971. Came out on Ryko as part of the Botched set. This is one of the worst sounding issues that came out on Ryko. And when it was re-released in 1995, it had the exact same audio, and it was so bad I even took the vinyl, made my own rip of it. But the new Universal and Zappa Records version, which was remastered by Doug Sachs, kicks ass. Sounds wonderful. If you do not have the original vinyl, this is the best sounding digital version of Fillmore East June 71 that you can possibly get. Last in our cavalcade of wonderful Zappa releases from the early years is Just Another Band from L.A. This has Billy the Mountain on it. Here's the original version that came out. And it's got the same label as the other botched ones. The sound on this is pretty horrible as well. And so is the 1995 version. Now, I tried to buy a copy of this on the new Universal Zappa, but I couldn't find it in any stores. So, I went to iTunes and I downloaded it, and then I burned a CD of it and stuck it inside of this jewel case. The new remaster by Bob Ludwig is fantastic. This record sounds absolutely wonderful. As a matter of fact, when I was listening to it in the car, I had it back to back with Bongo Fury. This album sonically sounds even better than Bongo Fury. Nice and bright, and good bass and drums. Fantastic album. Just another band from LA. Okay, now that's the first 12 Frank Zappa releases from Universal and Zappa Records. On my next Box of Sound, I will be reviewing the second 12 of those, if I can get them all, because I'm having kind of a hard time finding them. And I'll let you know about some possible quality concerns with the actual manufacturing of the discs. Something that's not the fault of the Zappa camp, but something that you have to just keep an eye out for. I'm sure that these issues will resolve themselves, but you'll find out more as they go along. Now, I've been teasing. Lately, I sent out a record by the Mahavishnu Orchestra to one of the guys in the vinyl community. Let me grab that record right now and put it in front of the camera. I know I've got it here someplace. Let's see, where is that record? Is this it? Ah, yes, here it is. Oh, yes. I'm going to pan the camera back a bit so you can see the whole thing. This album is the InterMountain Flame by John McLaughlin and the Mahavishnu Orchestra. This is the first jazz album I ever bought. But you know what? I did not mean to buy this album. What happened was, I heard this song on the radio way back in the early 70s. And I loved this song. It sounded great. And it was about, say, 8 minutes long. And I wanted this record so badly. But back then, on FM radio here in Cleveland, they'd play like 8 songs back to back for about half an hour, and then just before they went to commercial, they came back and said, okay, well, you heard Communication Breakdown by Led Zeppelin, followed by such and such, and then we ended the set with such and such, and before that we played so-and-so doing the rock and roll so-and-so Hoochie Coo release. And if you weren't there at the end of that set, you didn't get to find out what song was being played. So I heard this song, and for months and months I tried to find out what it was, could never find out what it was. And then one day it was played on the radio again. I said, okay, come hell or high water, I'm going to listen to the end of this set, and I am going to find out what the name of this song is, and then I'll go out and buy that record. So I'm listening and I'm listening and listening, and I got to go to the bathroom. I got to pee real bad. So I'm thinking, all right, I'm just going to run real quick. I'm going to pee. I'm going to come back. Ran to the bathroom, did my business, ran back, and they were talking on the radio. So I got the pen out. I'm writing down. And they said, oh yeah, we heard Mahavishnu Orchestra featuring John McLaughlin from the InterMountain Flame. Man, that is an awesome record. Just go out there and pick it up if you can. And I'm thinking, okay, that's it. That's the song I'm looking for. I went and I bought it, and I put it on my turntable, and it was not what I expected, but it was freaking amazing. This album opened me up. Now, this is not traditional jazz. It's jazz fusion. And this was my gateway drug. This got me into Miles Davis. It got me into John Coltrane. It got me into Chick Corea, Return to Forever, Herbie Hancock, all that cool stuff. But it was not what I wanted. What was the record that I was looking for? Strangely enough, it was the song Small Beginnings by Flash. Flash is a band that was put together. Uh-oh, am I still recording? Am I still recording? Oh dear. Oh no. Oh no, only 12 minutes? Fuck! Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm still recording the audio of this, and like I said, this is an experiment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot the second half of the video on this differently. So if you've been watching this on the video, things kind of got out of hand about 12 minutes in. So I redid the video portion of this, but kept the audio because it's well worth keeping. Anyway, let's go back to this. Flash is a band that was started by Peter Banks, who was the guitar player for Yes for the first 2 Yes albums. And after he left that band, he started the band Flash. They did 3 albums: Flash, In the Can, and Out of Our Hands. And the first 2 albums were fantastic. And this first album, Flash, is amazing. But the song Small Beginnings I loved. However, it was me trying to get this record which caused me to mistakenly buy a fusion jazz album and get me into jazz in the first place. Way back 74, I think it was, that this happened. And that's that story. And with that, I say thank you for listening to Box of Sound number 75. Once again, leave feedback, leave comments on the webpage or on the YouTube page, or leave a positive review on iTunes. Thanks for listening. Have a great day. Because I had a good time. I hope you did too. See you next time on the Box of Sound.